Hello and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast brought to you by The Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And I am Conan of Samaria.
What is best in life?
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
I put you on the spot. Yeah. The lamentations of our women and defeating our enemies and all those kind of things. Yep.
You know what? Actually, as a matter of fact, hi everyone. We're going to tangent immediately. One of my favorite Conan the Barbarian quotes is in this book at the end. But hey, Ryan, what the fuck are we talking about? Actually, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
It's really weird when we open the show and we're not like, hey, we're about to interview a person, you know? It's like, I feel like we haven't done as many lately. I feel like the beginning of the year, we fucking January, February. We really did. Yeah.
We went hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, lately we've had a lot of cool stuff going on. And it is kind of weird to just like do an episode. You know what? But today we're going to be doing the Black Sword hack from Kobayashi and the Merry Mushmen. And you know what I meant to do before we started, but I didn't. And everyone in podcast land is not going to see both myself and Hunter leave camera for a second. I should grab the fucking book. That's what I should do. So,
I'm on camera.
Yeah, look at you.
So to make sure that we're matching today, you know, we gotta wear
we gotta rock that Fist of Illuminations 2 Maximum Megatherian shirt.
Yeah,
Let's fucking go.
I was like say something, I was like, oh, it's right next to me. So
yeah. So as we get grooving here, I just need to find this goddamn book. Of course it's at the bottom of a pile.
So Ryan, so today, do you want to do some Kickstarters first?
Yeah, I think we should. Finally, got the book. Woo! Black Sword hack. You have yours, right? Yeah. So we'll go over this a little bit more, but as Hunter just said, man, look at us professional fucking podcasters really know how to get an episode going.
Yeah,
hello, everybody.
Screen immediately.
Yeah. Hey, we just started. We'll be right back. We're going to be doing Black Sword hack from Kobayashi and the Merry Mushmen. This is a hack of the Black hack. Sword and sorcery, more cocky and fantasy. Very excited for that. But as Hunter just said, we are going to we don't do this as often as much anymore. First of all, because I think both of us are kind of like I know I don't back as many Kickstarters as I usually do.
Oh, I did in the past. I had a problem. And like when we started, what was that? Was that 2021? Into 2022, I think was about when we started, right? Huge thousands of dollars just wasted. I wish I still made that kind of money, but rip.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is right at the end of 2021 that I still had some 5e projects that I had backed like a year or two prior that hadn't delivered. And then went from like, oh, I play 5e to, man, I really want to play other games to, I play a lot of other games and 5e kind of sucks to fuck 5e. In that period of time, like a bunch of projects didn't get sent to me. And then once I get to that, I don't want anything to do with 5e ever again thing. I had like 5, 6, 7 big projects to deliver. I'm like, well, great. Thanks for this, friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so the first thing I backed was Avatar: The Last Airbender. And that was right when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Or right about when we started. And yeah, by the time I got it, I'm like, I don't want to play a game like this. Like, yeah, there's too many rules. I'm more of a, lightweight kind of guy. Okay, but what are we talking about?
Real quick, how many projects do you think I've backed?
A ton. I mean, because I've backed like 100 and something, so it has to be more than that.
A couple more than 100, yeah. 442.
Holy shit. Hey, that's a lot.
Yeah. And here's 2 of them. So the first one we want to talk about a ton is 1978, the night they came home from Adam Vass of World Champ Game Co. Anyone that's watched the show, I have a whole shelf right above me of Adam's stuff. Anyone who is a fan of the show or watched our show at all knows that we are big fans of Adam Vass and World Champ Game Co. Love the stuff that they do.
Massive fans. Massive Robin fans.
Just enormous. So
don't say that other E word you're about to say.
Yeah. This is no exception to that at all. This is 1978, the night they came home, a 1v1 horror story game of supernatural slasher and resilient survivor fated to face off forever. So this one is really cool. I actually got a chance to read through the playtest documents of this, and it's really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
The whole slasher vibe absolutely comes through in the mechanics, in the way that the whole game is put together. And it's not just Adam Vass on this, it's also Logan Dean, who has done some amazing, awesome stuff like The Company. So really cool to see them.
Was it Megacorp Games? Is that the...
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then and Justin, I think it's Justin Valier as well. Black Fiend does the art, which is absolutely fantastic. So this is a really short project. It's funded already, but it only has a week left to go. I think they're only doing 2, maybe 3 weeks on this. So if you listen to this, you want to hop on and grab it right away. But 1978 is a 1 to 2 player horror game. Telling the story of a fateful showdown between survivor and a slasher using a deck of poker cards, dual rule books, varied resources, and shared played space. Players will recount the events of a forsaken Halloween, zooming closer into the haunting folklore of a small Midwestern town and its inhabitants, and culminating in a violent battle for survival. Really fucking dope art. Really amazing vibe across the entire thing. For those that haven't seen the page or aren't watching right now, there's a lot of this dual kind of like half face art where there's like half a face of this like female survivor, half a face of this like slasher looking guy. Just looks about as much of a 90s slasher as you can possibly imagine. And then the whole thing includes, if you back at the highest tier, which you should, the Pools of Blood tier for $50, which is, I think, really
very reasonable. $50 for what you get, you know?
Incredibly reasonable. You get 2 unique rule books. You get a printed cloth playmat.
Love that.
You get, a custom poker deck. Love that. A lot of people use poker cards when they make projects, and then are like, you have a poker deck, right? I love that you actually get one with this. And then a token collection to track resilience, fear, and fate. And the tokens are like little kitchen knives. Like it's just a really, really cool vibe across the entire project. It looks really, really neat. And it is right here at the beginning of summer, which is perfect slasher season. So it's fantastic. I'm very excited for this. There's a day phase and a night phase. Day phase is really setting up like the events of the day, the creepy stuff that people notice, all that. And the night phase is
like
the actual
accumulation
battle in the house.
of like functionally, it's like accumulation of resources to spend at night. But yeah, really cool. A fun 2-player game. Like my girlfriend and I are gonna play it. It's gonna be very fun. I'm gonna be the final girl though, so she's gonna be the killer. Just like real life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is 1978 from World Sim Game Co. and Adam Vass. Highly, highly recommend it. Like I said, we both got a chance to read the playtest documents, and I absolutely cannot wait to get the full bits of this. As far as I know, and I don't know if it's on here, but there may be a solo player mode too, where you can just pick one or the other. And then be able to play on your own. So the playmat is kind of designed for that as well. So just a great looking project. Super excited for it. And you know us. Anything that Adam puts out, we're gonna be fucking looking at. Yeah. So and then the other one we wanted to do real quick is called Memory, an adventure for Mothership from Crab Dominion. Where you have crashed on an alien planet with no memory of how you got there. Your only option is to try to escape. Same thing with this. I've had a chance to chat with Crab Dominion. We've actually got to play in a game together recently. Very cool person, great creator. This is number 1 of their inspired classics. It's a really fun, interesting adventure. I got to read bits and pieces and a lot of the highlights for it. And it seems very Mothership, but the thing with a lot of like really good Mothership adventures is, although it is Mothership, they all feel a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, totally.
Yeah, I mean, when Mothership, what was it? Was it last year or the year before where like every fucking campaign on Kickstarter was just another Mothership adventure?
Right. I got all those.
Right? And a lot of them are fucking bangers. Like the people that do this. And I think that the Mothership community in general works very well with each other to make sure that a lot of their stuff doesn't become just like shovelware. You know what I mean? Like there's a huge supportive community within the writer community of Mothership that Thursday Night Games and Sean McCoy have put together, that really helps each other out a ton, and it shows in a lot of their work. And not only that, before I talk about it a little bit more, a couple of names you might know attached to this project. Someone named Christian Sorrell, Meat Castle Gameware.
No idea who that is.
He's only edited like 50, 60, 70 projects already this year. And then the artist Zach Hazard Valpin, who has done the art for like Fallen. He did the art for Luminal Horror. Right. So amazing artist and fantastic editor attached to this project. So just that alone, I think would be enough to go, okay, well then this is not going to suck. He also did,
I think he did some of the art for Battlefields at or Bloodfields at Black Star Station, which is another Mothership hex crawl.
Yeah, from Christian Sorrell. Yeah. So again, just a really cool looking project. This is a 30-page adventure for Mothership featuring new aliens and a new planet, 5 new alien adversaries, including amnoids and star splitters, a 9-area point crawl. You know, we love us a good point and hex crawl, a 10-room mini dungeon, and a rich, compelling narrative. We have awoken on a strange planet with no memory of arriving there. It's really neat. There's a section here on xenobiology with this just mature star splitter from Zach that
terrifying,
just terrifying. And
yeah, if I saw this, I'd give up. I'd be like, okay, this is the end. So
yeah, there's a lot of times where people fight where I would just be like, nah.
No,
I'm good,
not
bro.
this one. Yeah,
that's fine. I'm good.
I don't know if I want to exist in the universe where this is real.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, great looking project. Excited to actually get it physically in hands. As I said, I've got to read bits and pieces of it already, and it's really, really neat. This is one I would definitely want to bring to the table. It is funded. It does have 24 days left. The funding goal was 1,500, and it has reached 4,400. So by that context, it's definitely gone way over its goal. But it does have some stretch goals where that most of which are unlocked. More interior art, editor bonus, pamphlet adventure. Some more full page art is what's left at 6,500, and another editor bonus at 7,500. So with 24 days left to go, hopefully we get all the way to the top. I'd love to see this thing reach its full potential. So grab both of those projects. We got Memory from Crab Dominion and 1978, the night they came home from Adavas and Logan Dean, World Champ Game Co. and Megacore. So fantastic stuff. And just a quick Kickstart the Podcast there. And we'll get into this game. So
such a rare occurrence now for something we used to do every episode.
Right? Literally for like 40. We used to have to be. Can we cut Kickstart the Podcast to less than an hour? Can we do that? Yeah. Ready for some Black Sword hack?
Oh no, not at all.
No. Nah.
That was the episode. Well, good night.
Hi everybody. Oh
yeah.
Wait, we're still here. Okay. I guess we're just gonna do the game then. So, so we both love the shit out of this game.
Yeah.
But why do you? Because I really, really enjoy it. You love the shit out of it. Why do you love this game so much?
I actually grew up with a lot of Conan the Barbarian stuff. And like, let me say right now that if you go back and you read almost anything that Robert E. Howard has written, including all of the Conan stories, they're incredibly misogynistic and like not even just vaguely racist. They are also racist. So I 100% acknowledge as we go into this. But like the genre of swords and sorcery, I've always found is like really enjoyable because it's kind of grimdarky without being overly so. And
it's like grim weird.
Grim weird is a great way to describe it. It's very gritty. It's very real for a lot of times. And when there's magic, it's weird, it's dark, and there's kind of a cost to it. People who use magic are usually seen as like, yeah, they're kind of usually a little bad, or at least a little bad. And there are like there are also elements of like weird, over the top sci-fi that kind of like dips head in. Maybe not in Conan, but some other series here and there. It's just weird. There's a space for weird stuff. Yeah, I'm into it. So yeah, this whole book, I mean, first off, it's D20 Roll Under, which if you've not realized, is my ideal way to go. And I just like how the characters are put together. I like the use of the Doom die, which we'll get to. And yeah, I think this is a really like well put together game. It's obviously a hack of Black Hack. And yeah, I just like it. You know, I should be liking stuff. I should be having opinions.
Hey, listen, you're allowed to like stuff and have opinions. That's kind of our whole fucking thing. So yeah, I mean, similar reason why I really enjoy it. I mean, I just think that it's simple in all the right ways, which is always really enjoyable. And the kind of classless but not classless kind of thing,
very
like
fluid,
you said, the
classes, you know, like your ability to like mix and match backgrounds. Like I've made some really interesting characters, you know, for
sure. And that's one thing I like about games like this, and one thing that I maybe I should bring it back to the top because I somehow am all the way at the bottom. That I really want to see in my own games that I work on and stuff like that. I love games like kind of like Karen and Knave and stuff like that, where you the quasi classless, but you still have like a direction. So yeah, when we get into those things, those will it is really interesting the way that they do it, and I like that you're not completely pigeonholed is by picking just like one aspect of it, which is really neat. So
I super agree.
And then physically, we both got the book, which is stunning because, you know, for anyone that hasn't got Mary Mushmen stuff, all their stuff is fucking fantastic.
Really very good.
All of the knock books, the fucking it's
folklore.
Right there.
There's the OSC folklore
bestiary.
Yeah.
Really fantastic. I definitely got the OSC one, not the 5e one. The 5e cover was beautiful. And then the physical book also came with the Chaos Crier, which is such a dope looking zine.
I really hope that they keep coming out with Chaos Crier. So Chaos Crier, for those listening, is just like more material. It kind of reminds me of like the old like Dragon magazines or whatever, where you'd like just have more material for you to put in your game. And so it has like a couple of adventures, a couple of enemy types. And it was like really cool. My only complaint about Chaos Crier is that the font is really fucking small. The font is, I was like, oh fuck, bro, I'm gonna have to get but the first couple pages of that, but there are a couple I'm just like, oh shit, man.
We're getting old, man.
Glasses.
We're getting old. Yeah, get them bifocals on, son.
But really very cool. Yeah. All right.
Well, not only that, I mean the fucking art too.
Yeah.
From Goran, I'm gonna
perfect art.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it wrong, so I'm gonna scroll down so that I can get as close as I possibly can. Goran Gligovic is what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna apologize for saying it like that because it's probably wrong. Amazing.
Yeah. If you click on the hyperlinked name that they have, these books hyperlinked, you can go look at the rest of their work, which is all very cool. And it's all very swords and sorcery-esque. So so the first this first couple spreads, you're in page mode, huh? So am I actually for this one. But there's a really great spread right at the beginning where it's like this giant statue, and it has this great quote from Michael Moorcock, The Weird of the White Wolf, which is a book that I have not read. There is no truth but that of eternal struggle. Hell yeah.
Yep.
Dope.
And that just the whole way through as I was reading it, every time there was like another piece of character art or something, I was like, this couldn't be literally more perfect for this game. Yeah,
I super agree. So,
all right. So
going in, where I think we're jumping past this like opening forward. Although I did read it and I did enjoy it. It was kind of just talking about Kobayashi's experience with like gaming and OSR and like what they liked about it and what was lacking and where this kind of strikes. But yeah, we scroll down. Where do you want to start, Ryan? You want to start the big D for Doomed Princes? It's more just it's a nice little opening that really explains like what Swords and Sorcery is.
Yeah. I mean, both are really good to read once.
Right.
And it's cool that they happen. It basically says, like, I'm from the 70s. I remember when the first time this batch of game styles came through, and then there was a revolution trying to go back to it. Kind of. And this is what I wanted, knowing both. And that's about what it was.
Yeah. So, another great piece of art after that. Nice little skull. And then the table of contents, which is interesting. The numbers are hyperlinked, but the words aren't, which is like, I was just fine. Yeah, I'm just like, I went to go click on the word rules and I'm like, oh, and I hit 12. I'm like, oh, okay, that one works. So
yeah, that's fine. I mean, people do that a bunch. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool just doing the words on the hyperlink. So we got bookmarks on this SOB as well. Yes, we do. Bookmarks.
They do.
Hyperlinks. And it's a lot of hyperlinks too. Like everything that could be really is. Like the names of everybody on the page that has the names for everybody, like written by art by, they're all hyperlinked.
And there's inline hyperlinks as well.
Oh yeah, the websites are all hyperlinked. Like you just said, like it references page art, and every single one of those are hyperlinked. I mean, when you got the downloads for this, there was an HD version, and it says an interactive version, which is what I was using because I was like, well, of course that means it's hyperlinked and stuff. Could not ask for more from like a pretty standard book. Again, like anything beyond this is going above and beyond. Having everything possible hyperlinked and bookmarks is about as much as you can ask for.
This Fantastic. Is like one of those projects we're gonna go through where it's just such a quality project all the way through. Written really well, art's amazing. And like even stuff like that. This next piece of art is a fantastic piece of art. I love this like very pale all white character with this like cuirass on that's like chameleon colored almost, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah, it's almost got like an oil slick color to
totally.
it.
Yeah,
very, very Elric.
Yeah, totally.
And then we get them rules.
Rules. So turns. This really explains how turns work. We've all taken turns before. Make sure everyone at the table gets a turn. Is essentially the crux of this. One turn is 2 actions. So you get 2 actions every turn to make sure that no one hogs the spotlight. Doing a thing is an action. So they have some really good examples here. I want to do some shopping, and this is like out of combat turns, or I'd like to do some research. This helps prioritize what the character wants or needs to do. If you're playing online, it says it's a lifesaver as it avoids players cutting each other off. And honestly, I read this and I have since, because I genuinely have not been doing this till now. And if you are listening to this a lot and you think I know a lot, you're wrong. I let outside of combat be very freeform. But since going through this, I've been like, I'm going to start running outside of combat as turns as well. And let me tell you, it is like lightened up my table a lot. No one's cutting each other off. I'm like, okay, you guys do that. And then for so long, I've had tables that worked so well together. But now since I have a lot of newer players, I'm like, oh, that's a thing I should instill. Like everyone goes around the table and has their turn, But I haven't been doing that, so.
Yeah, no, it's great. A lot of games kind of reference those options where it's like an exploration turn as opposed like the vanilla game does it. I
read it every time I read it, I'm like, that's a good idea, and I never did it. And it's not that this is any different. I just was like, oh, I should actually do that.
It's a good idea. And I love the way that this one really does it is like, there are some games we've read, like, I think even like the vanilla game and Durf and Electrum Archive and stuff where it's like an outside of combat turn is 10 minutes. Here's a specific amount of time.
Maybe that's the difference, because I don't think it really says anything like that.
No, it specifically says, like it very specifically says, a turn is as much time as you need for it to take and can vary depending on what you're doing. So if you're just trying to go run an errand or whatever, a turn is 10 minutes. But if you as a group want to go shopping, a turn is like half of a day. Just whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, that is the amount of time the GM has decided is your turn. And tell me how much time, what you're all doing in that amount of time.
Maybe that's why when I read it, I was like, man, I should really start doing that. And I feel like it feels more free to have like, I don't like when it's like, it's exactly this much time. It's like, okay, well, fuck it. That's not how my brain works. So I'm not going to use that. But yeah,
I do. So the other thing I really like about this too is like turns always broke my brain when it's like very specific, because if you say a turn is 10 minutes outside of combat, what do you call the next person's like go in combat? It's a turn. It's a turn. And it's hard. It's a hard not to, but when there's a capital T for a specific amount of time, and then you have like a lowercase t for a completely different thing, it's kind of, whatever. And then the one quick thing I want to say about the layout, I love all the way through, first of all, how many examples there are, but this kind of like, it's a parchment background, but there's kind of this like very like slight reddish kind of faded box over. And it literally says, what does this mean? Here's some example. This is what it is. It, like these little explainers the whole way through as you go immediately.
It guides the eye too to those little red boxes. Well, and also they're not like, it's interesting because I was working on something a while ago and I was putting boxes on a page and it was like a web design thing. And I was like, this looks ugly. But now I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, like having these boxes start on one side and like very quickly fade out, it's still incredibly effective for drawing the eye, Yeah.
Well, it's subtle in a way that doesn't say, here's a giant outline box. Like that. Yeah. Which sometimes is fantastic. When we read like Dead Halt and stuff like that, when something was really important, everything was white and those boxes were in black. I love the subtlety of this. Also, partially because there's someone like every fucking page. There's so many little examples and explainers on every page. It's nice that it's subtle and you can just kind of cruise with it.
Cool. Yeah, I super agree.
So turns,
so that's how turns work. I mean, we're good with turns. We all understand. If you don't understand, you can buy the book, and you can read it again. So, attribute test. So, like everything that incurs failure is a test. And this is a sane and right system that uses D20 roll under the superior system. So yeah, you pick an attribute. Or the game master picks an attribute, and the player character rolls under that attribute score. Roll on or over is fail or succeed at a cost, which I thought was really interesting because I love the whole nothing never happens. Roll under the attribute, the character succeeds. Roll on or over is fails or succeeds at a cost. And there's a good little example of what is succeeding at a cost. This is meant as a way to avoid a game stalling simply because of a failed roll. Here are a few examples tied to specific situations. Stealth's a really good one. It's like you make it through, but you leave something behind. Study, you find information, you seek, but you gain unwanted attention. But yeah, I really like this. There's a lot of instances where what's that face? Tell me.
I do enjoy this because you know me, I'm a mixed success guy. You're a D20 roll under, I'm 2D6. I like this, but I do also feel like this puts a lot of impetus specifically onto the GM. I think that Himbos from Max Lander did it better in that it actually quantified it to a number.
That's right, it did quantify. What was that number? I cannot remember now.
It's different based on like what the number is. It depended on how much of a window you had for a non-failure, because here it basically just says like a failed roll, something happens, but like, is it when you fail by, it's a D20 system. So if you roll, what if you roll like a 19 versus rolling like right on the number? It doesn't really quantify it, and that's fine because this is the kind of game where you don't have to quantify everything.
Right.
But the way Himbos did it was the exact same thing, but was so clean and easy that I would probably bring that system into this just to make it a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I like that this is in here because it gives the there's a lot, not as much in like maybe the OSR scene, but like if you ever change games, and this is like a 6-stat D20 game, so it's an easy one to pick up if you maybe been playing a more popular shitty game. But I think instilling the whole like, hey, failure doesn't mean nothing happens is like a good thing, or giving them the option of like succeeding at a cost if they make a doom roll, which we'll get to. But yeah, I like it.
No, it's fantastic that it's in here.
Ryan, I like it. Okay, stop shaming me for it, dude.
Bro, listen.
Yeah. So critical success and failure, no matter what the circumstances are. Roll 1 is a critical success. 20 is critical failure. For attack rolls, critical success means the character does maximum damage and adds a damage die. Shout out that because that is the superior way to do it. And whatever the roll, a critical failure means you have to roll your doom die immediately, which is a usage die that we will get to. Threat level. Ryan, what do you think about threat level?
Like Threat Level Midnight. Good movie.
So threat level. So in this game, when a roll affects an NPC or creature, and their level is higher than the character's level, the player must add the level difference to the roll, thus making the roll harder. I dig it.
I dig it. Basically, it makes it's hard enemies are harder. Yeah. I mean the same hard enemy is easier as you get better. It's a cool, quick little. I love tiny subsystems like this. Is exactly what we were just talking about with the attribute test. I think this is such a cool little. Well, you're level 3 and they're level 4, so like when every roll you do, you add 1 because you want to roll under. It's great, clean, love it. Yep. Yeah,
and the enemies are really, really very simple. How they're built in this game. So this is a cool little thing. It's like, oh yeah, this is how they're more difficult when in a roll under system. That's all player facing roles. So
well, and it allows a lot of really interesting balance-ish kind of stuff without having to remake every fucking enemy. You don't have to make a bad guy and then make like the leader bad guy and then make like the boss bad guy. You can just make a bad guy, and when the players are low level, it's more difficult, and as they get higher level, they kind of get up to the point where that becomes not difficult anymore. So I think this makes I have a feeling that this makes character like a monster creation exponentially easier by not having to find those middle spots.
Monster creation does seem incredibly easy in this game. So group tests, in the group effort, if half the characters succeed at their attribute test, the whole group does. This is a great thing that we do at my table that is never I don't really ever quantify anywhere, but it's great to have it in here. Like, hey, if you're all trying in a thing, if half you succeed, you do the thing. Like that's in here. And then advantage and disadvantage. It works like advantage and disadvantage. 2 dice pick the higher, or 2 dice pick the lower. I think there's a note at the end that's actually interesting. It's that advantage and disadvantage can apply to all die rolls, and this includes usage die, which I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of brutal. I like that.
Yeah. But what is a usage die for those that haven't? We've talked about it on the game before. What is a usage die?
I think this is maybe one of my favorite mechanics. So a usage die is I'll read their explanation. Some things in the games are represented by a usage die, that's UD, to model the fact that they are available in limited quantities. In Black Sword Hack, we like to use this mechanic to represent mostly abstract resources such as influence, debt. The usage die should be seen as a push your luck mechanic. It can grant you some advantages, but it also can blow up in your face in the worst possible moments. Some games use this mechanic to manage concrete resources like rations or arrows. Not so in Black Sword Hack, except when I play it, because I will still use usage die for that. When the resource is used, you roll a usage die. A result of 1 or 2 means the usage die is downgraded to the next smallest die size. So usage die 20 goes to 12, 12 goes to 10, 10 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 4, and then it's depleted. And so it's a nice way to track something that might diminish over time. Like I use it a lot for like poison or fire or something like that, like damage, where it's like, yeah, you have a usage die 6 poison. Good luck.
Yeah, usage die are one of my favorite mechanics that I just don't use. Like at all.
Oh, really? I totally use them.
I don't know why I don't use them. I think that's incredibly clever when systems. I mean, this game clearly loves usage die, loves the shit out of it. I think this one
it doesn't really like them.
Yeah, this one does, and then Fallen makes it like their entire core thing is a usage die. I think it's so incredibly clever. I think it's smart. I just don't use it. Like I use numbers or clocks.
Yeah.
And then that's what I just find it easier in my brain for whatever reason to just visually see the thing all the time. But it's a great mechanic to use.
Yeah, I use it a lot. I will say, unlike it says here, when it comes to any resources, like it says like, oh, it's easy to track 20 arrows. They're not doing that, bro. I'm going to give them usage die 10 arrows. And when they run out of those, they're, it'll diminish naturally.
You know what I do with arrows? I think it's either in or inspired by Cyborg. I love if you shot a bunch of arrows in combat, roll a d6
at the end of combat.
Yeah, if you roll a 1, you got 1 arrow left. And if you don't, you got plenty of fucking arrows because you're able to gather up the arrows, you're able to do whatever. Like, you got plenty of fucking arrows. And I also love the idea of, like, in the midst of combat, you're just fucking ripping arrows. You have no idea how many you grabbed, what was going on around you, any of that shit. So when suddenly combat's over, you look down in your quiver and there's only 1 left, you're like, well, fuck me, So
that is a really great way to track ammo, actually. So that's usage die. Solid examples when you need them. There's examples on damn near every page. And distances. So it's a really easy distance. It's close, nearby, far, and distant. Moving 1 range requires 1 move. Depending on the length of a turn, the actual distances covered by the characters will vary. For example, and they have a combat example, essentially like, close, nearby, far. I mean, like, I'm a big fan of, like, you can move nearby, you can move across a room, in a single turn. So
yeah. I like when, so it does give a section for, like, if you want to do it as squares, but I also like the idea of just like,
I do like that they have squares in here.
Yeah, rough estimates, but just I like that it's a little, just a smidge abstracted, like it's a little smudgy. You know what I mean? Like just a little smudgy on the edges, and I like that.
Yeah, I do also like that. Moving forward, there's more stuff on distances and turns. Absolutely check that out. Perception. Here's a fantastic part right here. When characters are actively looking for something, they find it. Yeah. It's funny because it's continuously one of my biggest complaints about more popular games. If the time taken to find it is a factor, ask for an intelligence test. If they're on the clock and they only have moments to find something, that's like a risk of failure thing, right? But if I'm looking for a letter in a desk, I'm going to look in the desk and I either find it or I don't. If I'm maybe being chased by the guards and I need to look really quickly, that's a great time to make a test. But if I'm looking, I'll find it.
Yeah, that's what this exact example has come up numerous times on the show. It literally is just like, if I say I'm going to toss a fucking room, I'm tossing a fucking room.
Yeah.
Like, if you just go, give me a 16. And it's just like, bro, I fucking scrubbed this place down. I didn't miss it. Like,
I think it comes up so much because it's just such a massive deficiency in other systems that it's immediately evident when you point that out. You're like,
I think it's more than a specific deficiency. I think it's a perfect example of how a game creates a style in the people that run the game by the way the game is written. Because
that's totally true.
Because it's common the number of times I've played a game and the things that you shouldn't fucking roll for, people are forcing you to roll for just because you're supposed to ask for rolls, right? Without using fucking common sense. It's just like, I'm just gonna do this thing. Like, I'm just gonna like throw this thing out the window, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, when you lean out the window to throw this thing, you trigger this and this and this, and it's just like, I mean, then I just want to do that. Like, it's just a throwaway fun, like
you know, my example, right? My favorite example. I was playing 5e with the group at the Rockheim gym when I worked there, and my guy jumped from a tower next to a wall to look over the wall, and I had to roll for perception, and I failed. And afterwards, thank you for doing that. I almost typed it in actually just now. After the game, the GM was like, "Oh man, I really wanted you to see that," and I was like, "Well, then why did I roll for it? Like, why did I incur failure? Like, if I looked with my eyes, I would have seen it, right?" Like, and he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah." And I don't think the guy plays D&D anymore. I think he plays like OSE or something. Because I was like, "You should try other stuff."
Yeah. And again, it just comes down to there's nothing in the rules. There's not necessarily anything specifically in the rules that says force people to always roll perception checks every time they open their eyes and look in a fucking direction.
No, but it's the way the rules are written it influences the way you think about them. You know?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Like the way in which because 5e, into this quick tangent, the very first page says like, make this game whatever you want, mix and match and all. No, but then make it what you want at your own table, and then gives you all of these extraordinarily very specific, very exclusionary rules, to the point there's even a fucking Twitter account where people like adjudicate exact specifics of every fucking rule. So you can't just like, oh, do whatever you want, the rules don't bind you, and then give you an entire like 150 page book of binding rules.
Arguments about the rules. Yeah, the rules don't mean anything. Do whatever you want. It's like, listen here, motherfucker, I swear to God, if you run
yeah, right.
Right.
My shield does this. I can push before my action, not after my action.
Listen, the way the rules are written, if you interpret them like this.
Yeah. So
Doom.
Be very specific about the way that you write your rules, because how you write is how people interpret it. That's the end of it.
Absolutely. Also, shout out this slick looking motherfucker at the bottom of this page under perception. I don't know what
I feel like Elric had a baby with Helsing, and like this is his boy. You know.
Yeah. So Doom.
Doom's dope.
Yeah, Doom is a very interesting mechanic, and I do like it. I want to use it. And then I'll really like it more, I think. Once they decide to go adventuring, the characters bring the attention of law and chaos on them. This is represented by the Doom die. Each time a character goes beyond their limits and tempts fate, they must roll their Doom die. The forces of law and chaos can and will turn the tide one way or the other. The Doom die is a usage die. When it is depleted, the character has brought doom upon themselves. In game terms, the Doom die is usually rolled when a character takes the same action twice during a combat roll, which I love, because like I hate when people do something twice. So making them do it again or making them roll doom when they are like, well, I'm gonna try again. Okay, cool. Uses a gift that requires it, which we'll get to gifts a little bit later. Gets a critical failure on an attribute test. The Doom die returns to its maximum after the character has taken a long rest. Players can choose to call on Doom, roll Doom, and subtract the result from the attribute test. The Doom die is automatically downgraded without rolling. No Doom die anymore. You can't use actions that require it. And once your Doom die is depleted, your character is considered doomed, and all of their attribute tests and damage rolls are made at disadvantage until they rest. Like it. Nice and brutal. I like the player characters be able to like use it and burn it a little bit to like make something a little bit easier for themselves. Yeah, it's very cool.
I really enjoy Doom. I love, like, and not specifically this mechanic, just in general. And I think that having something like Doom in a sword and sorcery really reinforces that concept of just like weird, like darkness that is really interesting. The only thing about this is it is a usage die.
It is.
Right. So, but I think it starts pretty low, right?
It starts with 6.
Yeah. So it doesn't, I do wish it it said in the Doom section that you start at a D6.
I believe it comes up when you're building your character.
Yeah, it's in character creation. I wouldn't have minded it here. So
Fair.
what? So it goes from like a D6 to a D4 to nothing, and I like that because you do get options pretty early, but your Doom die can increase its numbers over time.
Actually, it can only increase once at max level
to D8, and that's it. It's interesting. I think I have no problem with this, except something in my brain goes, you kind of do. And I think it just comes down to the usage die thing, because again, it's one of those mechanics that I love, but I don't use because it just something about it doesn't settle in my brain as well as something else. So I really have no critique of this.
I think I like this. I think I would get to the point of liking this a lot in practice. Yeah. Although I might consider changing it up. So I might consider changing it up to where like maybe there is another way to increase your usage die other than just the leveling, because I think it's only at the 10th level that you get UD up to D8. But point being, I would probably create another avenue for increasing Doom. Maybe I'd play it native for quite a while before I make that call, though.
I was thinking literally the exact opposite, where I was like, you get a lot of Doom. I feel like I would reduce it.
A D6 does not last that long, especially if your player character calls on their Doom die one time of their choice, it immediately goes down to a 4.
That's that. But every long rest, it completely regenerates all the way to full. That's the part that bugs me. Every long rest, it completely regenerates. I would almost make it even more brutal and say that you have to roll a die to see if it recharges only to D4 or recharges up to maximum.
That could be a cool custom rule. I've been using usage die a lot in the past several weeks in my Bastards game. It's honestly I've customized the game so much. It's still Bastards, but also and like D6 really either lasts quite a bit or almost not at all. So
that's Doom, baby.
I think that's good for it though. I would worry about making it any more like grittier. But yeah, so
I mean it's an expendable resource. It's not necessarily like necessary in the game, right?
Yeah.
If you were down to 1, you could continue the game forever, never using 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, except if you have like a gift that requires you, it kind of like if you get locked out of using your gifts, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, at the end of the day, since you want more and I want less, I feel like maybe this is perfect right here.
It's probably perfect, actually. Yeah. So yeah. So combat. Yeah. So this game has combat. It's it's fairly standard, and that is not me saying anything bad about it. I like this a lot. I will say it is all player-facing rules. So there's an initiative test, which I believe is a wisdom test, and then it tells you what you can do on your turn.
The crits on your initiative are fucking cool, though.
Oh, that's right. A critical success on an initiative roll means you get 3 actions instead of 2 at your first turn, which is in fact very cool. Critical failure on initiative test roll means you only get 1 action instead of 2, which is also very cool. I agree. I think that's a cool little add-on there. Because how often do you have crit success rules? Not super often.
On initiative, yeah.
On initiative, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's talked about what you can do on your turn, which, just keep in mind that if you do the same thing twice, you got to roll Doom. Melee attack, you make a strength test. Range attack is Dex. On a success, you deal your damage die. Critical success, and I glossed over this earlier, but you and I have had this conversation before. Rolling double dice for critical success sucks. Taking max damage and then rolling another die, fantastic.
It's one of the when I started playing 5e because 5e was my first role-playing game. It is one of the very first things before I even knew what homebrewing was. I was like, "That's dumb. Let's do this instead."
Yeah.
It's so intuitive.
Roll lower, like I could roll a 2.
You roll a 2. That's stupid. You should never be able to roll less than what you could roll as a non-critical success.
I've done that. I've hit a crit and been like, "Fuck yeah," and then rolled like two, like a 1 and a 2. I'm like, okay, well, I did critical damage 3. I guess I'll go fuck myself. Yeah, very cool. And then defending. It's player facing. It doesn't account. Defending does not count against your actions, which I think to us is obvious, but it's always good to have it in here. There's parrying, which is a strength test, and dodging, which is a dex test. Note, the character must be holding something to be able to parry. Ranged attacks can only be dodged.
Yep, that's a thing. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why that's necessary because, I mean, so when we get to shields, which we can just talk about real quick right now, shields doesn't give you more armor. It gives you advantage in parrying, right?
On parrying, yeah.
But if someone's shooting a bow at me and I can see them drawing back, I would put my shield up. Because I feel like I can hide behind my shield easier than I can roll out of the way of an arrow. I mean, it's whatever. I think it just comes down to making sure that like a ranged weapon is a dex test, so the ability to dodge it is a dex test. I think it's just like a cleanliness that they enjoyed in the rules, but I would allow people to parry ranged, especially, and even if you wanted to tweak it a little bit, if you are looking in the direction of the attacker that's firing an arrow at you, you can parry it. Maybe something like that if you really wanted to make it something specific. But I just see no reason why you can quote unquote parry a ranged.
Yeah, I think that I think anything that I'm questioning about this game, I really do like this game a lot. I would play like native as written and then maybe go back later on and be like, how do I really feel about this? But that rule, I was like, okay.
Same.
Yeah. Threat level's back. If an opponent's level is higher than the character's level, you're going to add the difference between two levels to the D20 when making any attribute test to attack. If the character's level is higher, though, there's no modifier, which I think that is fantastic and hilarious. It's like if they're better than you, you're worse. But if you're better than them, you're just you. And I'm like, perfect. Yeah. I really genuinely am okay with that, but I do think that is a funny standard. Weapons and damage. The characters are trained fighters. The damage they cause with any weapons is the same. It's a D6. They're unarmed is 1D4, which I like. I like a lot of times we do like one damage for unarmed attack, but I like having a D4 because I like them to have the options. Like, yeah, bro, you can just beat the shit out of some commoner with your hands.
I mean, and realistically, when you look at, I mean, damage can fuck people up, right? Like, if I swing a sword at you, I'm gonna cut you. But, I mean, I could punch you in the fucking face a whole lot and kill you, too. I mean...
Not even a whole lot. Like, like, really, if you go get in a fight with a dude, one good hit or two good hits might accidentally kill this person.
Or even just knock him out. Like, there's plenty of videos you can watch on the internet where someone gets sucker punched and is just on the ground out. So I do like
variable damage for unarmed. We've just had a lot recently that were just like, oh, it's just one damage for unarmed. I'm like,
I think that makes a lot more sense in the context of like if there are more damage options. Like if you have weapons that do D8 and D10 and like all the rest of that, and you really want to like do it different. But the fact that this is pretty much like swing whatever fucking weapon, who cares, or swing your fist, like go for it. I really enjoy this. I mean, I like systems that have just like everything is one unless it's like some massive two-handed weapon, and then sometimes it does two, and like I love that. So this kind of feels the same, considering the average of a D2 is like, or D4 is like 2 and the average of a D6 is like 3. I mean, it's pretty much swing away if you want. So yeah, when I read this, I was like, I really fucking love that. So
so armor's on here too. It's damage soak. So yeah,
dope fucking
great piece of art. Such a good piece right here. The one red eye, like the very cool.
Almost skeletal, but like there is like still flesh because it's got that beefy arm. But so good. And just the cultural aspects of the armor itself are so fucking like sword and sorcery. So good with this like
totally
kind of like weird headpiece thing with these two almost like dragon situations with this like rusted out patinaed armor on him. Ugh. And this sword that comes up over and over and over again. This specific sword with like this crossbar and everything. Love it.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, so shields we just talked about. They just give you advantage on your defense test when parrying.
But did you see what the last line of that specifically says?
At the GM's discretion, they may let you use your strength to defend against arrows. A critical failure means that, at that point, it's like, why even,
Specifically say that you can't, and then on the literally the next
like
page,
8 lines later. Yeah.
Like, there just wasn't really a reason not to put shields literally right under defending, as opposed to after threat level and weapons and damage. Yeah, because you write a rule and then immediately contradict that rule like half a page later.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it because it's shields, then two-handed weapons, then attack effects. But yeah, point being, two-handed weapons, you get advantage on damage, which is a great way to handle two-handed weapons in a system that only has one damage die. And then attack effects. Really cool little addition here. If you want to add an effect to your attack, say so before you make your attribute test, and then you make a doom roll. And also NPCs don't have access to this. And it's just a list of effects that you can cause to happen, like disarm. So you do no damage, but the target's disarmed. Brutal, you add the doom die's result to your damage. I like this. Nice, easy way to dress up combat and make it a little more interesting. That's very smooth. Yeah,
I love this. This is one of my favorite mechanics in the entire game. This is a sub system that I really enjoy a lot, and I really like that a lot of these aren't like a feat specific to a class or some bullshit. Like anybody can do any of these kind of like combat maneuvers just by tempting fate with their doom and stuff like that. I mean, and the options are crazy. Like break or not crazy. They're just like part of what should be part of combat. And I like it there being a list of it too, because I feel like it a lot of people in combat, their brain just kind of goes swing, sword, hit, swing, sword, hit. This will allow a lot of variance in the way that combat works, adds a little more story to the combat by making these like very simple, quick little rules, like a sacrifice, inflict double damage or triple on a crit, but your weapon breaks. Like there's some like cool choice bits in it. They're super clean. Everyone is like one line long, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 fucking options that anyone can do anytime they want to spice shit up.
Add your own too, add some more to the list. And they all fit. I do love sacrifice. That's actually maybe my favorite one because it feels really epic, Imagine critting on sacrifice, you shatter your sword and you just fucking demolish them.
Right, especially the BBG. Like this is statistically it's going to happen at some point where someone chooses to blow their weapon apart to get the final kill on something when half their people are already down. The options here and the way that they make it feels like combat will be much more narratively interesting with these options, to the point that I would love to use this system in like pretty much fucking everything. So
I super agree. It's really easy to slide in most places. Ongoing damage. This is exactly, I use this a lot in my own game. Things like acid, poison, or fire deal ongoing damage. So you roll a usage die, usually UD4 or 6 each turn. Until the die is depleted. There should always be ways to stop damage, like jumping in water or douse the flame or apply anti-venom ungent. But super cool.
Someone in the chat just asked, how would you use that with magical weapons? I mean, I think it depends on the setting, because if you're coming from 5e where like magical weapons are literally fucking unbreakable, I think then that sucks. I guess they don't break and you can't use break. But I feel like in most settings, there's no reason that magical weapons aren't unbreakable. Like I feel like if you want to break your magical weapon, that sucks for you.
there are magic weapons in this game, but there's only supposed to be like 2 in the whole world, you know?
That's the thing in this system. In weird sword and sorcery, like magic is dark and weird and uncommon.
Yes, like a lot of the times you're just coming across like decadent societies and like pirates and like maybe some weird magic, but like a lot of like swords and sorcery, it's like, yeah, he's a weird sorcerer, he can summon this one monster, and it's kind of like the apex of like his thing, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, this is just like an attack effect. This isn't like a class feature or anything like that. But if someone has a magical weapon that they are willing to risk sacrificing, I would probably give them like a little bit of an added effect depending on what the weapon was.
I agree.
Yeah, if it's like a flame sword or something like that, I'd probably give them like a bonus D4 or something of like explosion damage or some shit, because you're sacrificing a magical weapon to do it. Give advantage, just something that gives them a little bit bonus, because the cost of what you're sacrificing is more, so the effect should be greater.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think I'd base it on the scenario. You know, it's like, you're doing a UD8 like crazy damage over time. Cool. Hit points. When a monster or NPC's hit points reach 0, they're dead. At 0 hit points, a character is helpless, unable to do anything except talk feebly. Fantastic. Love that they can talk feebly. Once the fight is over, the character is dragged to a safe place. A player rolls D6. D6 gets you anything from scratched, good to go, except, new scar, or just killed,
I love this.
What's up?
I love it. I think it's great.
Oh, it's so easy, so good. This is as much as I want a death saving roll. This is as deep as I want that to go.
And 1 through 5, because you roll a D6, 1 through 5, you just get D4 HP back and get up and keep going. Like, unless you die, you just get these cool effects to the rest of your life, but otherwise you're just good to go. It's not like pieced individually, because you could make this a whole fucking page long where at 1 you get 1 HP back, and 2 you get this HP back. Much like many of the subsystems in this, I feel like it's incredibly clean and keeps the game moving forward.
I think this is very good with that. Recovery. I kind of like this whole like in-game narrative. As soon as they opted for a life of violence, characters have shown an unnatural capacity to heal. In game terms, it simply means that players recover HP by taking a short or long rest. Everyone else needs medical attention several weeks. So short rest can be taken anywhere lasts an hour, and the character recovers a number of hit points equal to half their con score rounded down. Long rest can only be taken somewhere safe. It takes about 6 hours. And they get all their hit points back, their doom dice fully restored. And some backgrounds and gifts may require a long rest to refresh. I actually really like this because, in the old Conan stories, like he's always bouncing back from a horrible injury, like immediately, and you're like, what the fuck? So I kind of like. I always thought it was ridiculous, and I kind of like that this is like same ridiculousness. Like, you're here with swords and sorcery.
I mean, it also lets, it almost is like I feel like this is almost an inside joke for like how all systems work in healing, where it's just like, you were literally maimed and tortured and died like 4 times in combat, but take a quick nap and you're chilling. I love that this is basically like, well, you chose violence, so guess what? Like, people think it's weird that you heal so fast. I love it. I feel like this is so tongue-in-cheek, and it brings me so much joy. Like, I want to use this in other shit where I'm just like, well, you guys all became adventurers, so now, like, you grow your arms back and shit. Like, I just love how tongue-in-cheek it is. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, your arms come back. Very funny. There's a combat example on here, very solid example.
It's great.
Fantastic, really. And then we get to my favorite part of anything at any point in time, which is character creation. I'm a character creation boy. This is how I learn every system. I was like, I'm going to start with this. So this is where I actually started this book, was right here. Creating a character is a 3-step process. The player rolls their character attributes, picks an origin, and finally chooses a background, which I feel like is actually more than 3 steps, but it's essentially 3 steps, right?
Roughly.
I will say that this is a 6-stat system, which is a lot of stats, and I don't know why, but I kind of like it here.
I mean, it makes sense in the context of like why. I mean, the black hack is 6 stats. So this is going to be, and I like, and if you again read that forward in the beginning, that basically says I lived through when games were being created. So like if I'm going to do the actual old school mixed with the OSR, I'm going to keep it to what the game is. The only real difference really is that D20 roll under, which, fuck, can you imagine if someone told people in the 70s to do that instead? How many pages of rules you wouldn't fucking need for like modifiers and all the rest of that shit?
Yeah, it's I think is why like I really do like a D20, and I like the math about it, and so I really do like this whole like you can still use a D20 and just get rid of all this like crazy like modifiers and DC building. Like no, it's just this. And you're like, oh, perfect. So 6 stats. There's strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I'm not explaining those.
I do like how it's explained here though. Like specifically like
that is very fair. It is explained really well.
It's like strength, STR, raw physical power, use strength 2, and then gives a list of example. Bash skulls, parry, perform feats of brawn. Like every single one of them has like use dex 2, use con win. Like I really like how it's a really nice. It's not just, it doesn't just say, you know, like persuasion, this, that, or whatever. It specifically says use it to do these specific tasks instead of just like broad random definition. So it once again, I just think the book is just so well done beginning to end.
It is incredibly well done. And rolling attributes. So here is a great way to roll attributes. And like, I'm going to be really honest with you. I haven't really read Black Hack. So I don't know if this is a Black Hack origin, but so you roll 2d6. Yeah, point to it, Ryan. You roll 2d6 for each attribute, and you know its score. So instead of rolling, like usually, like you roll in a lot of D20 rollings, you roll 3d6, and that's your stat. Instead, here you roll the number, and it tells you what the score is, which is really great because it limits it. It's only between 8 and 13, which is great because if you have somebody roll really high at the start, and they have a strength of 16. Like it kind of sucks because they're going to pass pretty much every single test, you know? But this like 13 is still pretty good. But it still leaves a good like margin of failure.
Yeah. It's interesting to do it this way because most of the time we see D20 roll under, you just roll your score and that's what you roll under. This to me, am I wrong? Am I reading this incorrectly?
That's exactly what I just said, though.
But this isn't that.
No, I know. But before that, I was like, yeah, usually we see D20 roll under. It's 3d6, and that's just your score.
Oh, yeah. My brain was not there. I don't. But you said you liked this.
I do like this. I do.
I don't know if I like this or not.
You don't like it because you don't like when you have to roll for a stat and then figure out what the modifier is, and it's
literally exactly what we don't like. It's not that we don't like that. We literally just cracked a joke about being like, man, if people back in the day, we could get rid of all these rules. We have to roll a number to get a different number instead of just using the number that you roll.
I just think that this is a very simple and clean way to deal with a problem that I'm having a lot in a D20 roll under, which is that you can roll a 17 when you're making a character. You know, I either just read or we just read one where you do like 2d6 plus something. It's like 2d6 plus 3 we did
or something like that.
I did like that. I also liked. So
yeah, see, again, that's like when you're rolling a number to derive another number. So for example, like the lowest you can possibly get is an 8. I mean, so then but if you roll 3d6, the average of a 6 is a 3. The average is about a 9. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. This isn't like it's super hard or anything, because at the end of the day, it's not like you're rolling a number to give you a different number that you then have to take that number and add to your numbers in the future to get to a different number. So it's way cleaner than that.
Yeah, it's still way cleaner than that.
Yeah, so it's instead of a 4-step process, it drops it down to a 2-step process. But when you have this number, that's all you have to know. So it's not like I hate it. It's just like I feel like I don't know. Maybe it is what you just said, where like if you do roll 3d6 and it's super high, like, you know, it is interesting that it just goes up to a 13. I don't know. This is one of the ones I want to play a whole bunch.
It's a really nice way to wrangle the numbers. in a range where you're not too bad or you're not too good.
I don't. If that's the goal, I think this does it extremely well. So yeah.
And then we have the next page of art, which is another 4 great character art pieces. There's so many good ones. Some really great ones. And then we get down to origin. So this is step 2 with picking your origin, right? This is cool because it doesn't it kind of matters later on, but it kind of gives you like an idea of where your character comes from. You basically roll on these origin tables. There's 3 different like major overarching origins. There is the barbarian, the civilized origin, and the decadent origin. So you're going to pick one of the following origins for your character of the 3 I just said. We use these words loosely, the way they were in the pulp novels. Like a barbarian, like, is not just like a person from nowhere. It's just like a hero with certain values that might easily succumb to violence and superstition. A character coming from a civilized culture can cherish knowledge and progress, but also be quick to deem others inferior or primitive. Decadent adventurers come from doomed societies, which can make them gloomy and miserable or carefree, just happy to survive another day. It's meant to be more of like a jumping off point for how you imagine your character. And not like a way to create a new cliche. So there's D20 tables. Ryan, you want to make a character?
Yeah, I love the origins. I think they're so good.
Oh, it's such a clean way to do it. Yeah.
And this art, this redheaded person who is blue. It's just more so good stuff.
We love a naked blue man.
And then the three origins too: barbarian. What was the civilized and then decadent? Oh, fucking like. I love the way that I got 15. So for the barbarian, I guess we'll kind of make 3-ish characters. So on the night your clan, my character was born on the night my clan burned the Empire's capital.
Nice.
Dope. That's a good one. There are really good ones here. So origin really, like you said in the description here, like it really just comes down to like a little bit of past. Like the ways that they use origin and background here are interesting to me, but it's a neat little bit of storytelling, and that's about what it is. So it's cool. I like it. What would you go with?
I have meta knowledge of the future, and so I would pick decadent because I know what kind of character I want to build.
I mean, decadent would be dope too.
I think I would pick decadent because hold on. Because I really want to play like a magic assassin in this game, and I feel like saying I'm from like a decadent, like actual decadent character background where you're from like a society like the low school of like assassins, that would be a decadent society. So yeah, I would pick decadent. Yeah,
it's dope. For civilized, I rolled up an 11, which would have been that I was born aboard a ship sent to find a new maritime route. Ooh. And then if I rolled decadent, I got a 6. My decadent would be in a museum as part of the permanent exhibition. How would you define, like, what would you say the difference between barbarians, civilized, and decadent is? What makes decadent? Because barbarian we get. I think civilized we get. What is decadent to you in this?
Decadent is almost like the darker end of this. It's like the a bottom end of like high society or magic society, or like, people who like maybe I want to be like, oh, they own slaves, but like that kind of shit. Like it's not a civilized world is the regular people. These are the people who are like, they're from a place that the culture is so alien or so wealthy that's turned dark and turned in on itself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think dark weird. Again, just like everything else, I think decadent is the distilled parts of this whole setting. You know what I mean? Like civilized is like merchants and military and all that. Barbarian is clearly barbarian, but decadent, like you just said, they have poppy fields, or they're assassins, or they're from a forbidden city. Yeah, they're weird. I feel like it's law, chaos, and weird.
Yeah, that's weird. They're weird. Bro,
but I would totally pick decadent too, but for the context of this, I'm gonna go barbarian.
Cool. And then backgrounds. Backgrounds fuck tremendously. I love this so much. This might be my favorite part. So when you're making a character, you're going to pick 3 backgrounds. 2 are going to be tied to your origin, and then 1 from any other list. There's some that are labeled unique. You cannot take 2 backgrounds described as unique. They raise an attribute and they give you another thing. It's a nice way to fill out a character, both like mechanically and also like who they are narratively. And here's another one where it's like, if my player character was like, hey, I have an idea for a custom background, I would let them say it. I would let them bring it and be like, it gives you a thing and it gives you a +1. Yeah, go off. Yeah.
The only thing I want more, because like you just said, backgrounds fuck tremendously. Like I love how clean they are, and exactly what you said, where it's not just mechanical bits, it's story bits for your character as well. So like if I picked like for Barbarian, for example, you get things like Berserker, which is your unique, but Scout, Shaman, Storyteller. There's so much flavor in every single one of those. Like Civilized, Bodyguard, Legionnaire, Diplomat, Decadent, Changeling, Forbidden Knowledge, Snakeblood, Vicious. Like, they're so fucking good. The only thing I want more, and this would be a bonus, not a necessity, would be a little bit of guidance and or like it written in permission to be like, these aren't the only ones. Make whatever you want, and this is how you do it quick. Give 1 attribute and 1 ability that doesn't break shit. Like, just like a 1 line that said that, I think would be the only thing I would wish there was like more to this. It's just that like written permission to like do more with it. But they're so fucking cool. Like, if I was going Barbarian, like doing like a shaman, storyteller, herbalist would be completely different than doing like a berserker, chieftain, hunter. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's so fucking good. And the individual abilities you give with it too, like Hunter, which is in every RPG ever. In combat, your first arrow always hits, and you add your level to its damage plus dex. Like,
it's great. That's such a good one.
So good. Like, anyway, and like you just said, it's also a way to the fact that you get an attribute bonus to each one, like right off the bat, is a really interesting way to like give slight progression. You're a little bit better at this. Because
so
you can really just go fuck it, strength if you want, and just say dope. I'm a 16
could, and
now.
just be like, you're ultra powerful. So okay, so I picked Decadent. So I have Assassin, Forbidden Knowledge, and I'm going to take Street Urchin from Civilized. So Assassin, your first attack against an unaware target is an automatic hit, and it deals damage equal to your dexterity score. If you have a dexterity score of 15, you do 15 damage off the bat.
That's dope.
And let me tell you that a lot of times in other games when I've played as an assassin, they're just like, oh, you do a little bit of bonus damage. It's felt a little like it doesn't really hit. But this, because if I'm like stabbing someone in the back when they're unaware, it's going to kill them. And like, frankly, if you're doing 15-ish damage to somebody, it's probably going to kill them. You know? Die,
yeah. Dude, I completely forgot that you get to pick one that's not from your origin.
Right,
like,
you do.
Oh God, it really makes this really well. I love this style of classless. Like there's games like I'm specifically thinking of things like Karen and stuff like that. I really enjoy Karen. I think Hoigal did a really fantastic job with Karen. But like everybody's everything. Like it doesn't matter. You can cast spells, you can do this, you can do that. It doesn't fucking like there's no I feel like I personally like a little bit more guidance in that. And I feel like this is such a good way between choosing and rolling your origin and then getting to choose 2 backgrounds from your origin, but then 1 from anywhere else gives you like a direction to your character, but allows them to not be contained in like such a specific direction. Because one of my biggest knocks on a lot of games is that you're so funneled into one specific thing. Like if you become a battle master, that is all you can fucking do. I love that it's what, like 6 to 10 different things you could pick 2 from based on your origin, and then literally like you could be like a chieftain, scout, assassin if you really wanted to as part of your barbarian origin. It's so fucking clean and smart and well done.
It works incredibly well.
Oh God, it's so good.
I do wish there were more, but also they'd be so easy to make, you know?
Are there, I mean, it's been a while since I read Crier. Are there more in Crier, or is this mostly like adventures and stuff?
In Crier.
Yeah, they're so fucking easy to make, though. Like, I can't believe there's not more Black Sword Hat content already. Like, this is the kind of shit I want to see more of. You know what I mean?
I am curious to see more people. Like, I don't know why there isn't more content for this game, because I haven't been looking super hard, but I have kind of looked. And like, I mean, I would play the shit out of anything.
Let's start doing this shit. We're gonna start putting shit out, and it's gonna be for like, let's fucking go. But yeah,
just Black Sword Hat stuff.
They're so easy to make, you know what I mean? Like, that's what's so good about it. Like, you could, I mean, if people could make 1,000 backgrounds for 5e on fucking what's it called? Not Drive Through RPG, the other one where they DM's Guild. If you can make 1,000 backgrounds for fucking 5e, you could come up with 5 more fucking backgrounds for a barbarian. Like, the fact that they're so simple, and just for more examples, like Pit Fighter under Decadent, your unarmed damage is equal to your weapon damage, and you get a plus to strength. Like, there's so many rules that come up earlier in the system that the backgrounds can easily feed into, that it just makes it a really interesting way to, as we said already, to really flavor your class, to not pigeonhole them, and to give a lot of spread to how you want to play your character and what your character can do within the game. I mean, the fact that, again, besides the 3 unique backgrounds, because Barbarian's unique one is Berserker. When you go Berserk, add a d6 to the damage you deal. The damage you receive is divided by 2. Your rage stops when you roll a 1 on the d6. That's unique. That's the only thing that you can do. You can't take a second unique one. In the civilized one, the unique one is the Inventor. You know how to build 2 scientific marvels, and you get +1 to int. And in the Decadent, the unique one is the Assassin. Your first attack against an unaware target is an automatic hit, as Hunter already said. So the ways in which you could easily make both unique and non-unique origin specific backgrounds is limitless and simple and easy. As I said, like, I would not mind a little bit more guidance in those, maybe in a separate document or whatnot. I believe there is an SRD, and maybe I haven't read it deep enough, but it's just really interesting. But yeah, so that's backgrounds. What's after backgrounds?
Don't leave without. So hit points total are equal to your con score. Doom, here you go. You start with a UD6 as a Doom. Weapons and armor, character starts with a D6 weapon damage and an unarmed damage D4. Starting equipment, it gives you kind of coins for what your background gives you, because barbarians don't have shit for money. For your 2 weapons, you can roll 2 D10s on the table on page 29.
Hyperlinks, baby.
What's up?
I said hyperlinks, baby.
We
got to make that hyperlink merch sometime soon, man.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a result of a 0 or 10 means no weapon with that roll. Yeah, and then languages.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
I said sucks to suck.
Does suck to suck, but it would be funny to start with no weapons. And languages, all characters probably speak
Therinian.
There we go. And another language tied to their origin, discussed with GM. Yeah, there's that.
I really enjoy systems like this. I'm a lore boy. I like enough lore. I don't need a 500-page book, but I like a little bit. Right. And I really enjoy when systems step out of being an SRD a little bit and put flavor into the system. So, like, in the context of, like, the origins and the backgrounds and things like that, I really enjoy that. And I really enjoy this little section that literally just it gives you like a whole bit of world building in what amounts to maybe 20 words just by listing a language and just the origin of where that language came from. Emmerich is the Caliphate. That's it. And automatically your brain goes, oh, get it. Okay, cool. Jerka is the Iron Horde. Urgic is the Northern Raiders. Like, so good to just have like what amounts to a quarter little page bit that just feels good. And this character art is also dope as fuck.
I know this little guy. Yeah.
Like aristocrat dwarf situation. Oh, God. Gordon's art is just so fucking good, dude.
Really good. Yeah. And then we get into equipment. Cost of living, which I like so much. At the beginning of each adventure, characters lose a number of coins equal to their con. This represents their daily expenses between two adventures. If your characters couldn't or wouldn't pay, they could either have taken a job or a loan, and you get to roll on the table below to set up that job or loan. And I love that. I think that's a very great way to deal with in between adventures, because I feel like this is meant to be played very much like an episodic swords and sorcery tale, where it's where the raid in the Red Desert, and then the city sleeping in amber, like these named kind of adventures that you go on. That there's time in between. It's it costs you to live in between. Oh yeah, I just like this a lot. I really did think this is clever. So
yeah, I think it's great. And again, the way that the layout is done here, where there's the tables and there's little arrows pointing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's just
it looks great.
The detail, the attention to detail is just so well done throughout this entire fucking book that it just, I don't know why there's just such a level of you can see when we've read books where someone really knows what they're doing and really picks out all the tiny little things in very clever ways, and people that are maybe a little bit less experienced, I want to say, in layout and stuff like that. And clearly the Mushmen know what the fuck they're doing.
Very true. And then there's a great piece of art of this weapons armor dealer kind of showing off their wares, Love it. And then price list.
Oh my god, I love this so much.
It's such an easy way to do a price list too. A variable price list. So it's variable, right? So there's a D6 column, a D6 times 10 column, and a D6 times 100 column. And there's a reason why item prices would vary, which is why you think they would vary based on rarity and scare. It makes sense.
I love this. I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. I don't remember who else did something similar to this. And I don't know whether it was Flayo, Red Giant, or Eyes Beyond the Torchlight or something like that. But anyone that knows me knows that I complain a lot about things that I don't like. And one of the things I fucking hate is a 3-page list of the difference in the cost between a fucking marble and a fucking donkey. I don't give a fuck. And it doesn't matter, because if you really need a marble, it's gonna cost a lot more than if you don't really need a fucking marble. So I love that it breaks it down into this concept of simple shit, just roll this. Medium shit, roll this. A really expensive shit, roll that. And I don't need a fucking list for everything, because all you have to tell me is it a regular, a times 10 or a times 100? I'll roll it and then pay the fucking price for it. It's so clean and I love it so much. I was so happy when I read this page. I literally was in a good way.
It's a very easy. It's funny because so much of this game, like you just said about kind of the layout, but knowing how to put a game together, these little subsystems that we keep going over in this game, just this person knows how to fucking play a tabletop game, because this is so clean.
It's so clean. Well, one of the other games that we've already reviewed by Kobayashi was Flayo. And throughout the entire thing, we kept saying this is not a rules light game necessarily, because it had some beef to it. There were a lot of subsystems.
Yeah, but it was a rules medium game.
Yeah, but one thing we kept saying over and over and over again was it's rules medium because of the number of subsystems it has, but every individual subsystem is very clean and light. Was incredibly clean and light. I think it was the best gun mechanic we've ever reviewed in the system. I can't
remember it, but I was actually thinking about looking through it after we're done with this episode, because I was like, oh yeah, they also did Slam.
And you can tell that it's kind of the same person, just how clean clean all of the systems are.
Yeah, they're really, I've learned a lot about subsystems through reading 2 of their games. Poison and drugs. Here are a bunch of I like this. Here's a bunch of poisons, herbs, and drugs list. According to their effects, prices should vary between 6 times 10 and 6 times 100, depending on the context. Just gives you some stuff, and you can think of your own stuff.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it, because it just gives you 4 basically options. anesthetics, hallucinations, pain, or weakness. So like, and here's what you have to do for each one, but then you can make a million of your own just based on that stimulation, death, healing, like really quick, easy ways to just give you super basic things that you could write a whole book of poisons based on this half a
exactly.
page.
I was about to say, I think the point of this and the strength of this is the context it gives you for making those decisions yourself. Which I love. I don't want a game to hold my hand through every single thing. And this game is a great example of like, here's context for decision making. Here's a couple examples. Whatever you do after this is like, that's your table.
I think one thing you just said is perfect about this is like, there are times where your hand needs to be held a little bit, and then times where you can just let someone wander. And it's such a great way. There's so many games that like, in my brain just went to like a million analogies, but I feel like it's those people that put their kids on a leash. And I love that this is one that like will kind of hold your hand a little bit through some of the like the gritty like kind of rules parts, and otherwise just keeps an eye on you. You know, that was a great analogy.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah. So then we have the weapons table, which is the one on 29 that you roll on based on your background. Very cool. It has a little note for two-handed weapons, which give advantage on damage die. And then there's armor and shield. Suits and armors come with protection rating. This number is subtracted from most damage the character receives in combat, because there is some damage that ignores armor, which seems fairly obvious, right? Weirdly enough, metal armor is not great at stopping fire. Once again, great examples, and you can just expand on those as needed. But yeah, so moving on to experience. Each time a character survives an adventure, they gain a story. Write down the title of the adventure on your character sheet, or you can make one up. I will name every adventure playing this game because it's very classic swords and sorcery. The Black God's Kiss, Dusk and Zuthal, you know, like very classic. But characters gain a level once they have the number of stories equal to the current level. So if you're level 1, the first time you finish an adventure, you name the adventure and you level up. Fantastic. And like keeps things moving forward. It's very easy to understand. It also is great because I love creating titles for stuff. And so it'll challenge me at the table to title every adventure. And like personally, like I'm looking for more games to play episodically, and this is a great one to pick up. It's just like, this episode, you know? Level and associated benefits. So at pretty much every other level, you can increase an attribute up to 18 and you get 1 HP. And on the every other level, you gain a gift and you get plus 1 HP. So you get plus 1 HP every level, and you either get an attribute boost or a gift. And then there's a rule for too slow. You can increase the pacing, which you absolutely can do. So next page is going to be gifts, though.
Yeah, gifts are dope.
Yeah. What were you about to say? What are you thinking, Ryan?
No, I like it. It's clean. I mean, the only thing that's interesting, it's not interesting. The after your initial creation of your origins and things like that, there's no real way to, because it is your background technically. Everything comes down to just attributes and gifts, which is interesting. I think it would be kind of neat at some point to be able to like learn a new background, maybe like something like that, like something through the course of your adventuring. You know, if you're a barbarian and you learn to read and you know what I mean, just a little something, I think it'd be cool to like have an option to maybe like homebrew in, like being able to pick like another background or like a new background at some point, but unnecessary, not necessary by any stretch, but I think it'd be cool to kind of toss that in.
Yeah, I think that's like almost like expanding upon gifts, which we're about to go over. It'd be a good way to handle that as well. So real quick aside here, we've not really been talking about the lore, but there's this constant theme of law, chaos, and balance in this game. And we have kind of like mentioned it, but we've mostly glossed over it, but it is like a fairly narratively important thing. There is not like a 3x3 of alignment. It's more kind of like, is your character a little bit more chaotic? Are they a little more lawful? Or are they right in between? But also it seems like it kind of doesn't have to matter if you don't want it to. So having said that, each gift can only be taken once. Gifts can come from the powers of balance, chaos, or law. A time may come when these choices affect your character. The GM will find more information about this in the in-game section on page 70, which we probably won't go over in the stream because buy the book. But yeah, so gifts. Gifts, they're pretty much they're almost like feats, you know?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Except that like a lot of them are. I feel like a lot of them are more passive than active. Like they give you they give you something like because it's a gift versus allowing you to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So like for example, like Bloodlust upgrades your damage die by one size. So that's like just a thing that you get, but then you get something like Battle Hardened and Gifts of Law where it says in combat you get a crit success on an unmodified roll of 1 to 3. So like I mean, I guess that's still just like a passive little bonus that you get. I guess the fact that it's a gift really makes sense. The word really fits what you get here. What did any of these really strike out as like what you would immediately take?
So because I was building like a magic assassin, I was thinking like Dark Revelation, because if you totally whiff your magic roll, you have to make a roll on the Torn Veil, which can fuck up really terribly, and this gives you advantage on that. And then maybe like once again, kind of the same I was looking at chaotic stuff because I'm me. Paranoid, you have advantage on your initiative tests. Because I was making like an assassin, like a magic assassin, you know?
Yeah, they're this is once again ripe for a million more. Like you could write a whole book that's literally just more origins, backgrounds, and gifts. Like Armor of Scars is dope. Like that can really lean into the barbarian not wearing armor bit, you know? So really cool. Really like it a lot.
Hell yeah, brother. Another really cool spread. So this good. Like I like this it's like this big dark thing and like area, and there's just one guy kind of falling through it on the panel above Dark Packs.
Yeah, it's very like it's the ocean, but it gives space too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, space ocean.
Yeah.
So Dark Pacts and Other Vileness. Signing a pact with immortal creatures made of deviousness, rage, and hatred. You're welcome to try. Such bargains tend to blur the lines between master and servant. Whatever your original intentions, working with demons and practicing magic means you'll be serving chaos in the end. Use responsibly. This game gives you rules for sorcery, DM packs, spirit alliances, fairy ties, and twisted science. It doesn't mean you have to include them all. I would probably include them all because I like weird shit, and I'm like, pile on the weird, bro. Can I get some more weird on my plate? So we don't have to deep dive all of these, but so these tie to your backgrounds, right? DM packs are going to tie to the warlock background. This one's kind of the most. This one's really interesting because this is the only one where you roll your doom die, which is a more limited die. But the effects of a demon pack can be a lot grander. All of these have like a failure table. So the demon's revenge is if you fail, which is your doom die rolls a 1. And there's a side effect.
These are
talk about demon. What's up?
The demon's revenges are so fucking good though. Like so it's a D6 table, but like the demon pays itself in your blood is a fucking dope one, or the broken pact, like you literally can't summon it again. It steals your shit. It's so good.
Yeah, I like that. It it appears and inflicts 3d6 damage before wandering off, and the pack is broken.
Pops up, punches you, and is like, all right, well, I'm gonna go. All right.
Demons are really powerful, but there is like a very easy margin or big margin for failure on this one. Like you really can fuck up terribly, which is why taking like the gift, dubious friendship, I think is what it's called, which gives you advantage on this roll, is like not the worst idea in the world. Demon manifestations, like as a rule, demons are never seen as they don't need to appear physically to influence their target. I like that a lot. I don't know why, but it's like always like you see a demon, it's like, no, like they're like invisible and like very dark in their nature. There's a rule table for like how to find the demon you seek, and how to create a pact is like written there, a little blurb. There's also types of demons. So this is very interesting. When you are invoking your demon, there is a thing that happens on a 1, right? And so usually it's things go incredibly awry. Like I think one of them is that you make your target fall asleep, sloth. So if you invoke your sloth demon, right, Ryan? You're going to do that to cause the target to fall asleep. But if you roll a 1, the target falls asleep and never wakes up. And I love that. I love that it's like, oh, on a 1, kind of what you wanted to happen happens, but times 100, and it's not exactly what you wanted, you know?
It's interesting that it's a 1. Because, so are we saying these things are good things or bad things or just weird things?
So it's
right?
on a 1 on your doom die. So it's a failure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. My brain broke for a second. So then, yes.
But it's very much how a demon would want you to fail, which is you ask a demon for something and it's like, oh yeah, you want that thing? Here's that thing way more than you wanted it.
Yeah, it's like the Leprechaun movie where it's like you asked for something, but you
Totally.
you got it. What the other thing? I think maybe that's something that like just popped into my brain real quick was I like when systems, and this isn't like a big problem or anything that obviously not big enough for me to notice before. I like when all the numbers are the same. So the fact that you
this is the only one where rolling 1 is bad. Yeah.
Yeah, so like rolling a 1 on everything is good except for your usage die, which reduces your usage die. So like it's but yeah. Anyway, so good.
So yeah, there's a lot of different examples of demons and what they do, and then there's the option to make a free form demon, which I would be interested in doing, where instead you just invoke a demon and ask it for something. It seems like the big like outlier with this one is like when they do roll a 1, how do you make it worse for them? But I think holding on to that very insidious, like a demon's gonna do, it'll do what you ask for it, you know, like, but it'll do it in a way that you necessarily didn't want it. I think it'd be fun to, as the game master.
It's so good. I love this part here where it literally says what you just said. The tricky part is coming up with a backlash. So there's this little bit of like explanation right here. I would have loved this same thing in the origin and background section. Just this one line that says, like, here's a way to do origins. This is the part that, you know, you need to pay attention to. I would have loved something that just says origins and backgrounds and gifts. These are the quick ways that you can make more and then just go.
Yeah, I should agree. So, very cool section. Spirit alliances. So this is going to be for the shaman background, and basically they're not demons, they're spirits from the spirit world, which is a parallel world to ours where there are no demons. Shout out that world. And so you're the call on a spirit. You roll your doom die with disadvantage. Oh yeah, all of them, by the way, when you're rolling for these is disadvantage if you've already called upon them once today. So the first time you just roll regular. Second time you're like, well, I guess this is doom die as well. I didn't realize that. I mostly, gonna be honest, I focused on sorcery and the fairy tales because I'm me, and that's exactly what I would do. So yeah. A spirit use is more open-ended than any other type of power. Each spirit has its own guidelines. The goal is to help the player make good use of their powers without going overboard. So there's like several different types of spirits. There's ancestor spirits, animal lord spirits, disease, fire, forest, hunger, pain, river, wind, and they all have their own like kind of how those individual things work. And it kind of work the way you think like a disease spirit would work or a hunger spirit would work, or an animal lord. And I believe they all have a backlash as well. Like on a 1, the shaman's affected as well. There's also rules for sacrificing your spirit alliance, which you can choose to sacrifice a relationship with spirit, and you're granted a huge effect, right? Like a fire spirit create a massive firestorm. so on and so forth. Very cool.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me just a second. Oh yeah, and also so the shaman starts with 2 different spirits too, which I really like. So you can like, it's not just picking one. But yeah, those are spirits. And then once again, there's another like creating a pact, and then like rolling on, what price does the spirit ask for creating a pact. Yeah, very cool setup. And then my favorite's coming along, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorcery. It's sorcery. I love sorcery. This is for the forbidden knowledge background. You start with 4 spells, but these are random. You roll randomly for these. And there's a reason for that, because there's a couple on here that would fuck up the game entirely if you were able to stack all of them together. But as a player character, I'd be like, oh, well, I want an adventure to get these spells, And as a GM, I would let them do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is going to be an intelligence test, which, casting spells. If you cast a spell again on the same day, you do so at disadvantage. If on failure, critical fail, you roll on Torn Veil, which I referred to earlier as the thing I would take like the advantage on. Because, 6, a tentacle monstrosity appears and takes you to another plane. Although that kind of sounds sick.
Nope.
Yeah. Range and duration, unless otherwise stated in its description, you must be able to see the spell's target. Kind of makes sense, right? And you can learn a number of spells equal to your intelligence score, which could be fairly high. It's a pretty good amount of spells. Yeah. Yeah, totally. But yeah, there's a lot of very cool and unique spells in here that I would very much suggest you buy the book and read.
It's a D100. But
it's a D100.
But there's a lot. I think it's 50 because it's 1 or 2 is 1. I think it's a list of 50 spells rolling a D100 because you get 3, 4, and 5 give you animate mirror. So it's interesting how sometimes there's 2 and sometimes there's 3. I'm curious why.
20, 21, 22.
Yeah, like 15, 16, 17, 13, 14, 11, 12, 8, 9, 10, 6, 7. It seems like there's either it assigns 2 or 3 numbers to different spells. But
I think it's a D100. There's like 40 something, like 41, 42, something like that.
Any of the spells like super jump out at you is like what exactly you would take off the bat?
100 is like 100's the best one. Maybe not the one I would choose for myself, but I just think it's really withering. Your target has a strength and vitality of a 90-year-old for the next 6 hours. And that, I just won this fight.
Yeah, that's fucking so good.
What about you?
Oh, I just rolled a 69.
Nice, perfect. Nice.
Yeah, so the red trap.
This is a really good one.
Yeah, make a small pool of your own blood. Dope, losing 2 HP until the spell's canceled. Anyone stepping in the pool cannot move further. That's dope.
I love that. I think it's so cool. Yeah, there's Dead Man's Map is a cool one. The blood of a dead creature draws a map that indicates the rough location of its murderer. I don't know. It's good. There's some spells that are just like, yeah, there's like acid blood and stuff and like withering. And there's some that are just like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
And I love when magic is weird.
Yeah. Well, I love, this is another place. Every single one of these is again, what I said before, when the mechanics build into the lore, like the demon types and all that kind of stuff really builds the lore into the mechanics, the spirit types. There's very few of these spells that are like, yes, that is good and fun and people would enjoy if I did that. You know what I mean? Like every single one of these spells is dark and fucked up and like really, and they're so clever.
Yeah. I really liked how weird it was. And then, there's another like finding and learning new spells and then like, where is the spell? And then we get on to fairy ties. This is for the changeling background. This one's a very unique one because this one is actually like you take 2 ties to the fairy realm and they just kind of give you something. One of my favorite ones, just because I like it. Actually, they're all really good. But I like Cauldron of Gold because I'm very pragmatic. You own a magical gold Bazant worth 100 coins, and that's just like one gold coin. That always finds its way back to your purse after 1d8 dawns. So you just spend 100, and then in 1d8 days, essentially, you're just gonna get it back.
That's cool.
It's so funny. And I could just the hijinks of this would just be, yeah. I really like this one. So.
Yeah, and then and just the variation of these like 4 types of like packs is so smart and so well done. Like I was just saying, like cold iron weapons, elfin secret, silversmith sorcerer, skinwalker. It feels so unique to compare to the other ones. It's not just like let's just reskin it to be like elfy shit. Like it's actually like really, really well done individually to separate all these out.
Yeah, I super agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Twisted Science, another one that I like. I glossed over it. I'm not much of the adventure guy. I'm trying to make deals with demons and cast big spells.
Yeah. So this one's for the adventure backgrounds, and this it adds a little bit of what I hate in my world, but is done in a good way, which is technology into my weird fantasy. But basically that's exactly what this is. Like you get to build gadgets and inventions specifically for the inventor one, and your gadgets have inventor points. So there are costs associated with building your gadget, and then there are usage dies associated with that too. But it's these Twisted Science Marvel. So it feels very like it's not steampunk shit, which I love.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah. Acid spray, blood-tinted spyglasses, a freezing warhammer, hallucinogenic gas. Like, I feel like it's just on the cusp of technology, which I really love. Yeah. Not established in any way, shape, or form. Like, the metal owl, the automaton, is the only one that I feel like really pushes the technology a little bit forward. Other than that, like I feel like again it's just like very like this to me, this like image here of the metal owl with like the giant thing feels, I don't know why it feels so out of place to me. Maybe I need to read more sword and sorcery.
That's actually what page is that? Give me a page number real quick. I'm scrolled down.
45.
I think that's actually something from the bestiary, and that's where the picture is, because I think it refers back to it later.
Okay.
Keep reading. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, I mean, creating new objects. Steampunk novels, movies, and animes are a great source of twisted science gadget. Take the 19th and early 20th century items and add a dash of madness. I love everything about this game, and then I would just tear out these like 3 pages.
Yeah, you're not a big technology guy.
I just don't. I think every other aspect of the setting would not make me. When I got to this part, I felt like it felt very anachronistic. But yeah. I don't mind that it's in there for people that do like a little bit of tech in the world. I would just ignore this and not let people pick this part.
Right. Very much you. I can't find what I was looking for, but I'm sure I'll find it eventually and send it to you and be like, this is what we're talking about. So runic weapons. So these are your magic weapons. And there's almost none of them. They're very powerful. There are very few of them in the world. They are like associated with chaos, law, or balance. And they're like, I think they're like immortal followers tied like of these things tied to a blade. But yeah, they give you a cool little weapon or a cool little roll table for building them. Yeah, very interesting.
I rolled I love this. I rolled a 10, an 8, and a 7. So I rolled the Naginata of Withering Death. Withering Death.
Okay. Sick.
I'll take that all day. Yeah. This immediately drops me right back into the world where I go, yep, runic weapons is what I would use, not technology.
Yeah. Runic weapon has an intelligence score. It's rolled the same way as a character's intelligence score. The GM makes an test, which is interesting because GM doesn't almost ever do like roll at all. But for this one, GM makes an int test for the weapon at the beginning of each session. If successful, the weapon will kill the character if they become helpless during that session. So you have a very powerful weapon that will in fact kill you given the chance.
Mm-hmm. So good. Love it. Love it so much.
Yeah. And then there's runic weapon properties, which kind of just lay out like what it does. I think this is very cool. Very easy way to build a runic weapon, but also it's like, I like that it's like, this is not a thing that they'll see. Like there is an example world in one of the appendices, and there's literally like 2 in the entire world created.
Like you could build a whole campaign or multiple like adventures in your like campaign, because a whole campaign, I didn't do the math on it, but you'd have to, how many games do you have to get to retire? Like I imagine it's like 3, 6.
It's an exponential list from 2 to 10. So
yeah, so it's like 30-ish or some shit or whatever. Yeah, I can imagine a whole chunk of that, like 5 to 10 adventures around finding it fucking you all over and then trying to get rid of it. Like, and it would be super dope.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the kind of thing like, oh, there's a great evil rising in the West because one leader of some band got this one weapon, and now people are just following him because like, oh yeah, he's holding the withering, the Naginata of withering death, you know?
Yeah, right. And he's got a deep voice and like a weird bowl cut long situation. Like, yeah.
Perfect. I think this is really cool. And then the bestiary, which is here. So it's really great.
It's cool.
It gives you NPC stats on the fly and how to make them. It's also nice because they like section a lot of this. So like here's a type of enemy, and here are several different ones within that type. It kind of gives you some lore on each of them as well. I really like this. Shout out to serpent folk, because those are always serpent people. Always my favorite. I love the like first civilization is like snake people, and like this is what's left of them. Always great. Never gets old. One of my favorite cliches in swords and sorcery are like fantasy. Swords
bad or snakes bad.
Snakes first bad. So
yeah,
very first.
What do you find on the corpse was another one I loved a lot.
I did like this because it's like, hey, listen, like it's a person, so really you're not gonna find like, you know.
You're gonna find a body part, like
a tooth. So yeah. And then we get to create your own world, which was a really cool guide. I actually really read through this and I really enjoyed this. They lay out like their world and ideas and like some stuff you can use, like lands and governments, people, kind of the law and chaos aspect of it. Like what do the main antagonists of either force look like? What do their tropes look like? What do their empires look like? And then way later, I think getting to POW 70, it talks about balance, this place between law and chaos. And in the end game, what the campaign looks like towards the end. And then there's like more stuff. There's creating your own city. There's a lot of, honestly, this is actually maybe some of my favorite appendices in any adventure game ever. I read all of them and I enjoyed all of them. They were all really good. There's some adventure seeds. There's some straight up adventures. There's a city. There's a world someone built. There's a list of like touch points. There's like a plot generator, and it's really very useful.
It's like you just said, like the tables for building that weird world and all the things that you need. Like it turns prep into a couple of dice rolls and then just letting your characters exist in the world. And it's so well done.
Yeah.
And then the appendix, like the running the game section, like the GM guidance section, is also really, really well done too. I mean, we see this a lot in some things, but I feel like this one was so concise. And as someone in the chat just said, the advice from the great old ones, where it's literally like quotes from all of these sword and sorcery authors like Howard and Moorcock and Lieber. Like, in an imperfect world, the mysteries were always without solution, and that was why there was always a great choice of solutions. Like, it takes the quotes and breaks them down into like how you can ascribe the way that these people wrote their worlds and wrote their adventures to the way that you write your world and write your adventures. Like it's just and then a whole like solo section, like solo rules.
Oh yeah, very cool. I did see that as well. No, I'm not much of a solo gamer, but like I do like that it's here, you know?
Yeah, I love solo adventure games. Solo like writing games, I think they're fantastic. That is not the way my brain works. I cannot focus on something long enough to just write shit. But the literature section here, I love that the first law and Shattered Sea from Joe Abercrombie's on this list because first law, like Logan, the Bloody Nine, and is to me modern sword and sorcery in a really interesting, fun way. So just so good.
I was wondering, did they put CL Moore on this list?
Oh,
I was just wondering.
I don't know.
I don't remember seeing.
Mark,
hey, listen, you could read The Black God's Kiss, which is another great sword and sorcery. Or in fact, there's a really great creator that we know who's working on a Black God's Kiss project.
Might be. I do love that that Jack Vance and Gene Wolfe are also on the list too. Like there's a really interesting like sword and sorcery into like kind of like the evolution of those things that are really good too, and even comics like Maze World and Berserk and shit. I've never read the Dying
Earth books, but people like rave about them. I know them.
I got the Dying Earth set from DCC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's Vancian magic is something that also, but we all
know how I feel about Vancian magic.
Have you read Book of the New Sun?
No, I haven't.
Oh, listen, I gotta be honest, dense as fuck, but so good. But yeah, I mean, just all of these appendixes, like the Dark Gods Oracle appendix, like Cosmic Usage Dice.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Just all the way beginning to end, even Impossible Creatures. This book is so well done. When I see everything that we just went through, the number of appendixes, like the amount of art, everything that we just read, and then I see the book and it does not look like a very big book.
Dude, seriously, I went through this for like a couple of weeks, man, and I was like, oh, there's like a lot in here. That doesn't feel like that. But there is a lot in here.
I mean, there's even like names, and obviously like a cool like nod to the Book of the New Sun piece of art. Yeah, the character sheets are fucking beautiful.
I like them. They're so clean. They're very clean.
And like the sword down the middle and stuff, and like the logo thing. It's just, but also the system is like super easy. And I also love that the character sheets, there's like 4 character sheets. There's like a sideways one. There's this like kind of like short halfy one where you could literally print it out and like fold it in half and have almost like, well, my one character died, let's roll over and do another character. And then like the full page one, like, I mean, also, it's with the glossary. Yeah.
My after the glossary and after the sword, there's that Conan quote that I love. Which is, if life is illusion, then I am no less an illusion, and being thus, the illusion is real to me. I live, I burn with life, I love, I slay, and I am content. Which is one of my favorite Conan moments, because you're just like, because he's supposed to be a barbarian, but also like he's a fairly deep character. He's very intelligent. But
Conan in the books definitely has a level of sophistication to his bloodlust that's really
do you know what's crazy? I've never seen the movie.
You have never watched like the Conan Arnold Schwarzenegger movies? Bro, I literally watched one the other day. Like, I didn't get to watch the whole thing because ADHD, but like they're all over fucking like Netflix and stuff. And thank you so much for everyone that just rated 20 sides to every story. Really appreciate it. So we are just wrapping up our read through of Black Sword Hack, and we're going to hop into the rating system that we do for reviewing these games.
I'm very biased. I really, really love this game. So
that's fine. I enjoy being objective about a lot of this stuff. I love the game too. I think it's incredibly well done. Why does this keep getting worse as I make the screen bigger? I accidentally messed with our Zoom windows before, and I feel like I'm just making it worse every time I do anything. There we go. That looks better. So, Black Sword Hack, the Weekly Squirrel game review. The way we do this, since it is a full-size book, this is the book. It's fucking beautiful. We break how do you quantify a tabletop role-playing game? We try, probably unsuccessfully, but we break it into 5 categories, all of which are given value up to 10 points each. 5 is not bad, it's just bang average. 1 would be really bad. The first is the art and style. This covers the style of the art, the quality of the art, the quantity of the art, but also a little bit of like the layout as art and style, the style of the layout artistically with it. And then when you get to layout is really more about readability, navigability, all of those things, like use of the page. Yeah, the functions. Rule set is, if it's a unique rule set, is it good? Do we like it? If it's an adapted rule set, how well is it adapted? Do we like it? Originality is very broad, kind of like catch-all one, where it can be originality in the rule set, originality in the setting, originality in the art style, like all of that, all kind of broken down into one. And then value is the bang for your buck. It is the not only how much you pay for the original game, but what you get for the amount of money that you spend. Character sheets, open licenses, extra content, all those kind of things. What do you get for all that? So art and style wise, what are your thoughts?
So this is a pretty good one. It's definitely not an art book, but there's pretty much art every 2 to 3 pages, and the art is fantastic. It is incredible. It is amazing. It's contiguous. It reinforces the vibe, which I love. We love. Yeah, for me, this is like a good, a strong 8 for art.
Yeah, I think easy peasy 8. I just think for a lot of the art, almost all of the art, I think is character art.
Right, and very full page. There's not a lot of page enders or little small pieces as you go, which I think would really bump it up to another level.
Very few, but at the same time, there's not a lot of pages that have I don't think there's any pages that really have an empty spot, there was that Helsing dude was a partial page. The little dwarf guy was a partial page.
Dwarf guy, yeah.
But
and then on weapons and armor and shields, there was space to maybe throw a art of one of those, or there is space to put more stuff, which is why I'm just explaining why I don't think it's a 9, but I think it's a very strong 8.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, like you said specifically, the equipment page actually has a good quarter of it at the top that's just empty. Could have put even just some type of running thing across the top, or a little thing at the bottom. I mean, yeah, 8's a really, really solid art score for a game that's not an art book, and I think that this is a hard 8. Easily fantastic. Just the art from Goran is fucking beautiful. Layout wise, pretty straightforward. 2 columns, only a couple of pages, kind of break that up a little bit, the equipment, specifically the weapons, things like that. But navigation wise, I mean,
oh man.
So I wish the book had a bookmark, but that's a bonus, not a deduction. But the hyperlinks are fantastic. I haven't found a broken one. They're everywhere you could possibly want one. If it references another page, there's an inline hyperlink. There's bookmarks. There's one thing that some people forget a lot too is links to the people in the book's stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. They're
you can click on Goran and go to Goran
page. Yeah, I mean, and all that's there.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly readable. It's a dark. It's black on a basically white background with a little bit of a parchment texture to it. It's readable. It's navigable. It doesn't necessarily blow me away with the bonus features. We really feel the color coded shit and bookmarks and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Where are you with this?
This is another strong 8.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I think that this is an easy 8 for that. All right, getting into the rule set. So I've read the Black Hack, but it's not the system that I know like the back of my fucking hand.
Right.
So how well it's adapted, I feel like a lot of the core bits of it are there, but I don't know how many. I can imagine that a lot of these subsets aren't in the Black Hack, like demon packs and shit. So what are your thoughts on the rule set overall?
I love this rule set. It's a really great example of a D20 roll under system, and I mean that's a black hack thing, but it's also a great like example, like Flayo, of awesome subsystems. It has amazing subsystems that all fit in really well. That I really enjoy. I mean, and the rule set's always a really hard one for me, because to me, this is about as good as a rule set's going to get for me, you know? I would maybe change like 1 or 2 things, but like this is a strong 8 to 9 for me for rule set, you know?
Oh, easily 8 to 9 for me. I mean, I love for D20 roll under is the best. I think that there's no rule that I would change without playing this game about 50 times first, but there are some rules that in my brain I absolutely understand why that is done that way. It's consistent with the way everything else works, but my brain would like it done slightly differently, and that's only in like 1 or 2 spots. I think, again, I don't know necessarily how well it's adapted from Black Hack, because once again I've read it but did not research it, but much like Flayo, the subsystems really shine in the way that the game is designed, and I also think that it shines massively in the way that all of the systems reinforce the play style that I think that Kobayashi was going for.
So what do you think?
The world that, I mean, I am between an 8 and a 9 on this. I'm probably an 8 on this. I mean, I think that more like kind of out of the box unique mechanics are what I shoot for. Things more like Necronautilus style stuff, you know what I mean? Like things where you like words are your power in your life. I think this is like an easy 8, almost 9 for me.
Dude, 8's all, hey, listen, 8's all across the board, you know?
Yeah. I mean, those are solid fucking scores. Originality. So this one's interesting for me because it literally is genre not original emulation. Like at all, like a genre emulation, like that's, but done in such a good way. Like I've seen a lot of sword and sorcery games, and I don't know if I would say that any of them are better than this as far as
this is without a doubt my favorite swords and sorcery game.
Yeah, like if I wanted to play Conan or Elric or anything like that, there is no other game that I pick up before like, this one.
My own weird grim fantasy, you know, like I would be using the system. I will be actually using the system because I fucking love this game. So for originality, the thing is like, it is genre emulation, right? It's like you go to the back of the book, the appendices, and they're like, like this is it's swords and sorcery. Like these are all great touch points. Like
you literally have quotes from the people who wrote the genre. Like you can't get much more emulated than that.
So I mean, maybe it's not the most original thing in the world, but like its use of a genre, I think, is like really good. I think it does suffer from the fact that like I don't know if it's innovating on that genre at all. You know, it's not.
No, I do think it's modernizing it, though. I do think it is bringing a genre that's at this point 40 to 50 years old and putting it into a system for people now. And I can imagine people playing this game that haven't read a lot of Moorcock or anything like that, would bring that in. What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking another 8.
I think an 8 too, like, because I mean, not only again, originality is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the dumb stat here, but it kind of where everything falls. You know, not in a bad way. It's kind of like where everything goes. Like if there's a thing that I really love about the game that doesn't really fit into another like rule, or another one of our metrics, I added into originality. And I think one person that someone just said in the chat too, all of the appendices I think really aid in originality, because
customizing your world. Yeah, the world generators, city generators, they're really great tools. The tools in this, the subsystem tools, the roll tables, they're all so top notch. So value. Let's talk about value. So this game, if you get it, is $31 American, my brother. It does have a little bit of pricey shipping if you are getting it from the Merry Mushmen. It is $12 shipping, right? But dude, there's so much in this book for $31. That's a crazy amount of stuff in this book.
And it's a beautiful hardback.
Sorry, we couldn't hear that, Ryan, because your mic works, but never mind.
Yeah. It's a beautiful hardback, and it's not POD, which means it's not glossy. It's a beautiful cover. I mean, I love this black edge on the side. We didn't even talk about like the made by humans logo thing here.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing too is like this came out a little while ago. I feel like it kind of came out like maybe right as like Mid-Journey started to be a thing, and you could really only make like maybe cool backgrounds for it, not like people making like anime chicks, and you know what I mean? Like it's so the fact that they went made by human, I feel like pretty early on in the context of like fuck AI art in your books, pay a real person, was interesting. But the book itself for $31, I did not expect it to be so cheap, realistically.
That's genuinely, for what we go over, that's pretty crazy. And also, like, to add on, Chaos Crier, which we've kind of touched on, but we're not going through today, is $8.
That's
so
good value.
It's $8 and like 50-ish cents, right? But like there is 2 adventures, a location, and a subset of enemies. It's
packed. One of the things you said early was that the font is small
because there's so much in it.
It is packed page to page.
Yeah.
Like the amount of content.
This alone is months of play.
Yeah.
For my group.
Honestly, I would expect this to be closer to 40 plus, and I would expect this to be an easy $15.
Yeah, totally. And neither of them are that. It's pretty high value. And I think with the world generator, the customization, like the I don't remember what the person's name is, their world that's already in the back that you can kind of piggyback off of, like the GM section or whatever, where it's like building your own world and like how like it gives you ideas for all the areas. Like, I mean, it's
so good. But not only that, right? Like it's automatically built onto what is it? The Creative Commons 4.0. So that means that the text of the game is in CC BY 4.0. And on top of that, the SRD completely free on the Merry Mushman website. Yeah. So you can easily use a lot of resources for that. It's directly on the website itself, super easy to use. And then there's a whole section of compatibility logos that you can toss on as well. I mean, and if I remember correctly, I have somewhere saved on my phone, someone made like an interactive character sheet as well. That is really well done.
So what do you think of this one?
I mean, I think you know what I'm thinking.
Are you thinking an 8?
I'm thinking an 8.
I think it's an 8 as well.
I think this is just.
I think if there was more content created for this game, it would easily be a 9. But like, I'm having a hard time finding more content created for this game. If you have content created for this game, send me the link. I'll buy it.
I mean, but here's the other thing: if it's not. I don't think it's a nod that that other people haven't made stuff for it already based on the game by itself. You know what I mean? Right. I honestly cannot believe that we didn't see a million fucking games made after this came out. Like, I don't know why. I don't know, like, would it just be adventures? Like, because, I mean, the black sword hack is a hack of the black hack. So if you're going to hack the black sword hack, you're the black sword hack. You're just hack squared at that point. But, like, I'm surprised there aren't more adventures. I genuinely am.
Someone in chat said a good thing. could you not use existing Black Hack stuff? I mean, here's the problem: is that you probably could, but I haven't really deep dive Black Hack, honestly. So, but I mean, I guess you could, right? I mean, there can't be that vast of a difference. You should be able to adapt at least.
Yeah, I mean, you can adapt, but I feel like I guess there's a ton of Black Hack stuff, but I don't feel like Black Hack is a weird sword and sorcery game, based on Warcock and Howard.
So there are some Black Hack adventures that are like weird fantasy for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a little more open. I don't know. I'm still pretty good with an 8.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm solid. I mean, for to get above an 8 in general, the game, you would basically have to give us the game. Like at this point, Merkborg got a 10 when it first came out because of the amount of like content that they were putting out for it. And at this point, the game is literally free. Like you can literally go buy the plain text version of the game entirely for free and have about 1,000 adventures for it. And that's why that gets a 10. 8 for a game that you have to buy. Is a really high score as far as the value, but it's because the amount of content that you get within this. What I still think, it must be page thickness or something. And on top of that, the pages feel very like thick magazine pages. There's a slight gloss and like smoothness to them that's really, really gorgeous. Again, like maybe I'm looking at the wrong people, but I would think that I would see adventure every other week for this. But regardless, that's not a knock on the game itself. That's a knock on all the people that are not making good shit for a good game. Overall, a 40, which is a really fucking high score. I mean, the highest score we've ever given out is like a 43 or a 44. Yeah. So this automatically puts it in the top tier of all the games that we've ever reviewed, and I think that's exactly where it belongs. I think everything about this, beginning to end, I think the rules are fantastic. I think the subsets are fantastic. I think the art is fantastic. I think that the polish on the game is fantastic. The layout, beginning to end. I mean, I just think that everything about this is extraordinarily professional and polished and well done, and everything you could possibly want from the game, including world generation and literally guidance based on like the authors of the game, of the books that the game is built on. I don't think there's anything more you could really want from this. And I think it's fucking fantastic. Is this where you thought it'd be? Is this where you thought it'd be?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of figured we'd be in at least like the very high 30s or low 40s. So
yeah. I think it's fantastic. I would play the shit out of this, and we should.
Yeah. That was Black Sword Hack.
That's Black Sword Hack. So for those in chat here, because I don't know if the game, this will definitely not be out on podcast before it happens, but tomorrow and the following day, we are doing a really fun batch of stuff. Last week we chatted with the guys from Haunted Table and got to play some Triangle Agency. And then now, tomorrow and Tuesday, we are doing another really fun, interesting thing. We are doing One Night at the Shelterwood Inn. This is a crossover reality, a crossover adventure written for both Liminal Horror and Triangle Agency from Josh Demansky and Caleb and Sean at Triangle Agency. So we are actually going to be playing the adventure twice. Once with Liminal Horror tomorrow, and Hunter will be running that stream with a fun group of players, Kirby from Disaster Tourism, Andy from here on the Adventure Archive, and on Tuesday, I will be running that stream in Triangle Agency with myself, with Leona, which is a person that we will link all of their stuff to, and with Christian Sorrell, Meet Castle Gameware.
Sick.
Yeah, super excited for that. So you will see Shelterwood Inn tomorrow and Tuesday in Liminal Horror and Triangle Agency. Super excited, very happy. Stick around for that. This is the Weekly Scroll podcast. This was the Black Sword Hack. You can find us on Instagram at the.weekly.scroll. I'm falling behind again, so we'll see what happens with that. You can find us at on Twitter at weekly_scroll. And if you could go to YouTube, the Adventure Archive, find all of our EPs, all of our stuff, and hit the subscribe button. We are climbing towards 850, and getting to 1,000 is going to be fun and interesting. So do that and catch us next 2 days. And I think next weekend the plan is Mouse Rider, right?
Yeah.
Stoked for that. We will see you all later. That is our episode. Hunter, you beautiful bastard. Have a good evening.
You too.
And goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.